Okay, hi, sports fans. Is this any better? I was on Instagram Live and the audio wasn't very good. So will you guys let me know if it seems to be a little better this time? And I look like hell today. I don't know what's going on, but um, not that I hear that. Okay. Hi, hi, Pete. It seems much better. Awesome. Is that
I can
better?
hear you clearly. Yes, that's perfect.
Goodness, I'm so sorry about that, everyone. I am in on Long Island, and the quality of the Wi-Fi is kind of spotty here. So, okay, so anyway, I think a lot of people agree with me, by the way. They're saying they're very stressed out. There's a lot going on. You're saying that you need to kind of find this inner peace. But Jay, I've got to be honest with you. It's really hard right now to feel peaceful when you feel like the world is falling apart, and there's something new every day to really be legitimately concerned about.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I completely agree that there is so much trauma. I read a study a few years ago that was saying that we're exposed to more trauma in 24 hours today than we were in our whole lifetime 25 years ago. And when I read that, I can totally empathize and completely connect with what that's like. We have the news on all day, you have notifications, you have negativity around you, maybe in the workplace. So I completely understand that. My position or my perspective is that that's why we need to develop these skills and these muscles even more. Because when things are the toughest, when things are the hardest, when things are the most difficult, that's when we need the ability not to just make ourselves peace and calm, but to actually find a way to navigate through that noise. And so the skills are not there to try and feel peaceful. The skills are there to try and maneuver and navigate and take the right steps, because we have two choices. We either accept that everything's noisy and negative and we just keep feeling powerless, or we develop our muscles, we develop our resilience, we build up these skills, and then try and do something about it. And those are the two choices that sit with each of us. And by the way, when I say do something about it, that doesn't mean big or small. That just means feeling involved and part of the solution, to be active in whatever way fits you. It doesn't mean you have to do something colossal.
I understand. That's a good point. So, somebody keeps telling my earring, I think they're okay, everybody. Don't worry. Okay. Someone asked about your book called Think Like a Monk and Train Your Mind for Peace and Purpose Every Day. So, before I get your advice from this book, Jay, and most people I think know about you, you have a million followers on Instagram. So, there are a lot of people who are fans of yours already. For those who may not be familiar with your work, you're 30 years old, and you act. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey instead of having me fill in the blanks?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in London, and I grew up in an immigrant family. My mother moved to London when she was 16 years old, and my father moved there when he married my mother about 10 years after that. And I was born and raised there, and I was exposed to everything you are exposed to in a big city like London. And when I was in my teens, I got really enamored by people who'd gone through deep sacrifice or discipline or broke through things in their mind and tried to make a difference in their life. And I was reading about autobiographies and biographies of people who'd made a difference in the world. And I would often want to go and hear them speak as well. Remember, this is before social media, so you couldn't just jump onto a Instagram live like this to hear someone. You had to go to events and sit in lecture halls and theaters. And I was invited by one of my friends to hear a monk speak. And I had no interest. I was cynical. I was doubtful. I was thinking, well, what am I going to learn from a monk? I was drawn to people who went from nothing to something, not nothing to nothing. So I was like, what am I going to get from this? And so I promised my friends, actually, no, I asked my friends to promise me that I'll only go if we go to a bar afterwards. And so they were good friends, so they agreed to my compromise. And I went along to this event. And it's one of those humbling moments in your life, Katie, where you go somewhere expecting nothing, and you walk out having found everything you were looking for, or you didn't even know you were looking for. And the reason is that what stood out to me is that this monk had given up a life of success, a life of career. He went to IIT, which is one of the top universities in India, and he'd given it up to be a monk, to live a life of service. And I thought, how incredible is this, that a human who had every opportunity to become successful and wealthy and accomplished gave it up to do something positive in the world. And that really struck me at 18. So I spent a lot of my summers interning at finance companies in London. And so I would be in bars, steakhouses, and suits. And then I'd spend the other half interning with the monks in India, sleeping on the floor, waking up at 4 a.m., meditating. And then when I graduated 3 years later, I decided that I'd rather try and live my life as a monk than in the corporate world. And I lived as a monk and lived and traveled across India and Europe for 3 years.
And what was it about, what tilted the balance for you? Everyone's still here. Hope. I'm getting some messages that it's breaking up. So I'm doing the best I can. So hopefully you can still hear me. But what was it, the balance for you? And you said working in finance, honestly, that sounds pretty good to me today.
I think what tilted the balance was meeting someone that I believed had achieved something that not a lot of people around me had. So when I was 18 or even 21, I'd met people that were rich. I'd met people that were famous. I'd met people that were athletic and strong and powerful and intellectual. But I hadn't necessarily met someone who I felt was truly joyful and purposeful. And the monk had that. And I thought, wow, like I want to experience that. Like that seems like a really worthy pursuit. And what I loved about the path that he lived was that half of the day, the morning, was dedicated to self-mastery, and the rest of the day was dedicated to service. And so they were feeding the homeless, providing food and distribution for homeless children and school children across India, sustainable villages. And I thought, wow, how special if I could do that with my life. And I was so drawn to the depth of being able to even consider overcoming the challenges of the mind, understanding ego. And I just thought this was the most worthy pursuit. And around me, I saw many people, a lot of my friends were older than me. And I was very grateful because they were very honest and vulnerable with me. And these people had perfect partners, perfect homes, perfect everything, but would tell me that they felt they were missing something. And to me, what the monk had is what they were missing. So I thought this is a worthy pursuit.
So what did you pursue? I know you have a podcast, popular. Someone was asking the name of the book. I don't want to miss an opportunity to sell a few of your books today, but it's called Think Like a Monk, everybody. And it's obviously by Shetty, who's joining me now. But what basically, what happened after that? You're 33 years old, so young. This was when you were 18, you work in finance, decide to go ahead and live this life. So is that what you did in your 20s?
So 22 to 25, for 3 years, I lived as a monk, and I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. That was my intention. But the interesting thing about self-awareness and meditation and reflection is you get very quickly to the real version of yourself. And 3 years in, I realized I wasn't meant to be a monk. I was independent. I was rebellious. I liked to do things differently. And I realized all of those things weren't very aligned with being a monk. And monks encouraged me and said to me, the teacher said to me that they felt I would be able to have a bigger impact if I was to leave and share what I'd learned. And so when I moved back in with my parents, age 25 going on 26, I was 18,000 pounds in debt from my student loan. 40 companies rejected me before an interview because, surprise, surprise, no one wants to hire someone with monk on their resume. I was just...
I think it's probably seen as a real asset.
Well, I think they were like, well, what are your transferable skills? Sitting in silence and meditation? We don't need that in the company at that time, at least. And so I was coming back and I didn't know who the prime minister was. I didn't know who won the World Cup. I'd forgotten how to do small talk because you don't do a lot of small talk as monks. And so reintegrating was actually so difficult. It was one of the lowest points in my life, trying to reintegrate, because I didn't really know where to start. And by the way, when I became a monk, the society and extended community, the response was, well, you're wasting your life. You're never going to get a job again. You've wasted your education. And when I came back, a lot of people said to me, well, we told you so. Like, what are you going to do now? And so I had this deep desire in my heart that I wanted to share what I had learned. And I started sharing it back in the corporate world and started to see, this is in 2013, a lot of people in the corporate world were opening up to these ideas of meditation and mindfulness.
Right.
And then around 4 years ago, I realized that I was sharing these messages in corporations and with executives and coaching, but I really believed that this wisdom belonged to everyone in the world and that everyone in the world could benefit from it, no matter what their background was. And so I started making content online, which is when I started my videos. A year and a half ago, I launched my podcast. This year, we're sharing the book with everyone. And what was amazing, Katie, is just seeing, and this is what's given me so much confidence and faith in this, is that people are deeply seeking for alternative tools and paths to help them manage their mind, because it fascinates me that despite all of our technological advancement, we still haven't created a class at school for the mind. We haven't trained people how to understand their emotions. We haven't trained humans how to deal with negativity. We haven't trained humans how to deal with feeling overwhelmed and pressured. So we haven't taught people as children what they mainly deal with in adult life. The most common things you deal with in adult life are stress, pressure, overwhelm, balancing, yet we've never trained any human in anything about that inner space. And that's where the monks really focus on. And not just through my experience, but monks' brains scientifically are proven to be the happiest, most present, and most compassionate brains on the planet because they have the highest form of gamma waves.
So tell you, well, that's I mean, so much of this is, but is, A, why is that the case? And B, I know a lot of people, what did you learn? And that you did want to share. A lot of it is in the book. Think like everyone's asking. But you had to kind of say the 5 most important lessons you learned. What would they be? And someone is asking about gamma, what you mean by that. But let's start with what you learned, and then you can explain how the life of a monk can really have an impact on your brain chemistry.
Yeah. So one of the first things that I learned as a monk, and becoming a monk is literally the greatest rebellion almost that you can do in society, because it's completely against the grain of what everyone else is doing. So the first thing I learned by living as a monk is what it takes to do something that's against the grain. Katie, something you know a lot about too in your life, like to innovate, to do something different, to, as Robert Frost would say, take the path less trodden on, or take the path less traveled. When you do that in your life early on, you get the confidence to follow your intuition. You get the courage to actually listen. The challenge with a lot of the life we live today is we listen to a lot of noise around us, but we don't listen to the direction that's coming from our inward voice. And so really being able to push aside the noise and to really listen to yourself, that was one of the greatest skills that I learned. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you neglect or don't listen to anyone else. What that means is you have the ability to understand what's important to you. So that was one of the first skills that I learned. The second thing that I learned was what's known as intentional or conscious living. And what this truly means is that you can design your life in such a way to actually set yourself up to be more still when the challenge comes. So it's almost like putting on your armor or putting on your shield. And a good example of this is our morning routine had these 4 key elements that set our minds up for feeling shielded from the natural pain throughout the day. So these 4 habits, which I write about in the book as this acronym, TIME, are thankfulness, inspiration, meditation, and exercise. So every morning, ask yourself, have I made time? And you can spend 5 minutes each a day on these. Thankfulness. When you start your day off, studies show that 80% of us look at our phones first thing in the morning before we look at our partner or before we look at our children.
Guilty.
And our phone is the last thing we see at night after we see our partner and after we see our children.
Guilty.
Guilty too. Me too, Katie. I'm in this boat too.
Dude, I learned to do this.
Yeah, I have off days. I make the mistakes. Like, I'm not perfect. I make plenty of these mistakes. And so I share this to remind myself. When you wake up in the morning, when you look at your phone, you're allowing negativity, notifications, and noise into your mind. So let's say you slept well and you start your day at 0. When you let the notifications, the noise, and the negativity in, you're now at a -5. And you spend your whole day trying to get back up to 0. How many of you feel like that? I'm sure everyone agrees that they've experienced that. But let's say you start your day with thankfulness. You start your day with reading an inspirational quote or a message that means something to you, or an affirmation just for 30 seconds. You start your day with just spending a bit of time with yourself just to really understand what's important to you. You exercise. You've now started the day off as a +5. And so even if the negativity comes out with you, you end up at a +2. And so it's so important to start our day off right. The start and end of our day are sacred, and they need to be invested in ourselves. So that's the second thing I learned. I'll add one more instead of 5, and so we can dive into a few more of your questions. Okay. The third and probably the most important thing that I would have learned at the time, which I think will be relevant to people right now, is the ability to understand how to sight, scent, and sound design your life. And what I mean by that is, if you have a TV playing in the back of your room all day long, it's no surprise that you're exhausted at the end of the day, because we all have something called cognitive load, which means your brain is trying to make sense of everything that's happening around you, whether it's useful or useless. And so if you have just random noises, shows playing in the background, if you're just exposing yourself or overexposing yourself, it's natural that your mental ability is depleted. Instead, having sounds that you love listening to in your home, whether it's a beautiful song to wake up to, a beautiful song to go to sleep to, sound designing your life, your mood will change in an instant. The second one is...
Hey, I was just going to mention, they say you're dying. The last sense to go is your hearing.
Yes, exactly. And if you think about it, Katie, when you wake up every morning, the sound, the sense that you wake up to is sound. Sound is so powerful for transforming how you feel. And most of us don't expose ourselves to enough sounds that are positive for us. As monks, we used to sound design with nature, with water sounds, with bird sounds. And by the way, you can get them on a Spotify or Amazon playlist now. You don't have to live like a monk to think like a monk. You can find it in your own space. Scent design is so powerful. What I mean by that is, when you smell eucalyptus, lavender, sandalwood, your natural system just calms down and slows down. If you have a diffuser or a candle or an essential oil in your home and you walk into that room, even if you're stressed, you'll be forced to pause, inhale, and feel that calm. And then sight design. Look around your home and ask yourself, what is around you that gives you a sense of calm that you want? Or are you surrounded by things that trigger you? And so those are some of the simple steps and practical steps that I think people can take today to reorganize their sight, sense, sounds to feel peace in their life.
So you also say an exercise. Jay, I just, for some reason, I'm very undisciplined, and I just can't get into does it get easier the more you do it? Because it's just really hard for me to start it and stick with it and keep going. And I wonder if other people, and by the way, I want to ask some questions, because I don't want to be the person to ask you questions, but how can you get into the groove?
One of the best things to do with meditation is to do it consistently for a week, to really commit to it as a big priority. And this is true for any habit change. Any habit we want to create, we have to take a small step, but we have to make it a big priority. So you can't try and become a better meditator at the same time as eating healthier, at the same time as trying to work out more, at the same time. And we often try and change our whole life in 1 week. And that's why we don't get there. It's really important to say, well, this week, I'm just going to focus on trying to learn how to meditate. And we started this at the beginning of lockdown. I did 40 days of meditation on Instagram and Facebook Live every day, and we had 20 million people join over 40 days.
Wow.
And it was insane.
Are you still doing that?
I am. I'm actually doing them right now. So tomorrow is day 8. I'm doing another 20 days. And we did day 7 this morning. Every day at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, we do this daily meditation together. It's only 10 to 15 minutes. And what I found is that when you do it every single day consistently, you start to feel the benefits, and then you can keep the habit going. It does become easier, but I think it's really important to try and do it with a guide or a teacher to begin with, because that helps you get involved and much more immersed. And so for a lot of us, it's hard to do that when you haven't had that experience.
I'm going to have to try.
Yeah. Everyone's saying, do it, Katie. Join in, Katie, in the comments.
By great people. Bob Roth is a good friend of mine. But
yeah, Bob's amazing.
Right? But
yeah.
I just have never gotten into the swing of things. I want to get some questions from the audience. People are saying I'm still echoing. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm trying my best. Are you hearing me, Jay?
I'm hearing you. It is choppy, but I can make sense of it.
Okay.
And my little plea to everyone listening is...
What can I say? Tell me some of the other things. Oh, before, I wanted to ask you about the monks. And are you calling it gamma rays, or is that what
gamma waves? Gamma is a type of wave in the brain. Yeah.
The effect of gamma rays on Man in the Moon Miracles. I don't know if you guys remember that book, but that's a whole different thing. But why were the monks? Why were their gamma waves so good or so still?
So one of the interesting things is that there's a few points there. One of the big things is that monks are able to be extremely present. And for them, being present or focused on one thing or the other is almost like a light switch. And this is what the scientists and the studies stated, that monks' ability to focus, these are monks obviously who've meditated for a long time. The point being that most of us are not able to fully be present. Now, Katie, you're very present right now. You're totally with me and I'm totally with you. And what we don't realize is that when we're distracted, when we don't want to be somewhere, we'll now be distracted when we do want to be somewhere. And so that distraction bleeds throughout our whole life. But when we're present, even in the most times that we don't want to be present, we're training ourselves to be present. So the key thing for monks, first of all, is being present. And for all of us, one of the best techniques to be present, which we were trained in as monks, but is now used by therapists and psychologists, is something called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. So if you're ever feeling like you're just stuck in your head or things are going round and round and you're stressing out, you do the 5-4-3-2-1 method. What are the 5 things that you can see around you? The ceiling, the sky, the trees, the painting. What are the 4 things that you can touch? Your top, your glasses, your hair, your earrings. You touch it, you touch all aspects. Your earlobes, you touch all those 4 things. 3 things you can hear. So just take a moment at home. What are the 3 things you hear? I hear some birds, I hear some leaves, and I hear some white noise. What are the 2 things that you can smell? Taking a deep breath.
I don't really smell anything, Jay.
So then that means we need to light a candle or a diffuser or an essential oil. There we go. And then what's the one thing you taste? I can taste my lunch. What that does is that 5-4-3-2-1 method grounds you into the present moment. So if you're feeling stuck in your head, and we always say, oh, I'm just stuck in my head, this is a way to get out of your head.
You know, one of the things that I think is really screwing society up, I'm in a depressed state of mind today, Jay, which is pretty unusual for me, but lately. But I think this thing, the thing I'm talking to you on, I mean, I get so distracted. I'll be talking to someone I love and care about, And then suddenly, Adrian, I'll be scrolling on Instagram, or I'll be looking at something or checking emails or texts, and your body, multitasking, you cannot do it. It's not possible.
Nope.
I think, someone was mentioning The Social Dilemma, which is a really great documentary. I'm friendly with Tristan Harris, who's featured in that documentary, but it just, for many things that he takes issue with with social media, but one of them is the addictive nature of, and how it's just so distracting. How do you deal with that? How do you get that out of your life, or only your life during when you really need?
Yeah. So one of the first things I'd say is when you're with people, leave your phone at the door, leave your phone at the front. So what I tried to do in my home is we created no technology times and no technology zones in our home. So there are some parts of our home, which generally is the bedroom and the dining room, where we don't allow technology. And it's just a rule that we've set. So we imagine like this laser curtain, this laser circle around this room. And you don't take your technology because it's more fun to eat and sleep with people. Like why would you want to have a technology ruin that relationship? So no technology zones and no technology times. Set times of the day as a rule that you don't look at your phone. So for me, I don't look at my phone until 8 a.m. and I wake up at 6 a.m. and I try not to look at my phone after 7 p.m. Those are just rules. And when you start setting these rules, you'll break them, you'll get it wrong. But at least if you have the rules, then breaking them will be the exception. The problem right now is that the rule is we use our phones 24 hours a day, and the exception is we switch them off once in a while. So I think that's a really important habit.
It's interesting because I think someone just made a comment. Cases like the pandemic, technology is allowing us, for example, this conversation,
Yeah.
to actual, more meaningful connections. And yet, I think it just has to be managed, and you have to be mindful about how you're using it, right?
Yeah, everything is about you. This is how everything should work. When you look at something, when you pick it up, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you can't give yourself a good answer, put it back down. That's as simple as it is. If you're scrolling on social media, the question you want to have in your head, and this is a series of questions I called spot, stop, swap in the book. The first thing is you have to start spotting when you feel distracted or when you feel negative. So you might find that you feel that when you're scrolling on social media, or you might find it when you're around a certain group of people. First spot it, then stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you can't give yourself a good answer, swap it for something that you do want to do. And all of this is a habit, Katie. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. And you just get quicker and quicker and quicker at spotting, at stopping and swapping. And one of the things that I did that really helped me is I have this mini, it's in my other studio right now, but I have this mini it's not an hourglass, it's a 60-second glass, and you just turn it around and obviously, the sand starts sifting through. I do that as my distraction time. So I time my distraction. So if I get distracted, I notice it and I just turn it over and I allow myself to be distracted until it runs out. And then I go back to my task. It just makes it more playful. It makes it more game-like. And I think that's part of what monk training was about, that you're not judging yourself. You're not like beating yourself up and saying, oh, I'm the worst. I'm just on technology and I'm just distracted. And we start beating ourselves up. When as monks, actually, we'd be like, I noticed that. I saw myself there. I saw myself get distracted. All right, let's come back. It's so much more of a light-hearted, jovial touch of gamifying it for ourselves and going, oh yeah, I know I got distracted, but that's okay. I did 60 seconds and now I'm back.
So the book is Think Monk. What are the major things that obviously, there are a lot of things that you want to share that you've learned with other people, but what are some of the main things that you want people to read this book and take away with them?
I think the number one thing, Katie, I feel right now is to help people find some stillness away from the noise so that they can, yeah, exactly. So that my hope is that when people read this book, and the book was written as a meditation. So my intention is that reading the book is a meditation, and that when people read it, that they will feel a sense of stillness and clarity from the noise. And then when they go back to the noise, they'll actually be able to navigate it and understand it. It's not about stopping the noise. It's not about blocking the noise. It's about knowing how to find your way through it to make the difference you want to make in the world, but starting with stillness, starting with silence, starting with space.
Well, I'm really excited to read. I want to join. That's okay. Someone's sorry talking about my earrings. Don't worry about it. But listen to what Jay is saying. It's much more interesting. But when I would love to join your meditation, when could I do that?
So we should do some for you and your family or whatever, anytime. But
do it with the whole community.
That's at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time every day for the next 13 days left.
Because to me, there's something actually really wonderful about the idea of it with everyone, and
absolutely,
kind of having that community. So I'm going to try to do that. The name of the book is Think Like a Monk. And how can people buy it? What's the best way for them to purchase?
I'm going to put the link in the comments right now. It's thinklikeamonkbook.com. So it's the title of the book, thinklikeamonkbook.com. And then you get links to all the different places it's available. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, wherever you buy books. It's available everywhere. So thinklikeamonkbook.com. And
by the way, I'm quite a little matchmaker. A couple of people have asked if you're married. May I ask if you're married?
I am married. If you follow my wife, more people, everyone who likes me falls more in love with my wife. My wife is a better me, so she's amazing.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say. My wife, me. Does she do the same kind of work you do?
She does.
Uh-oh.
Hey, I can't wait for you to follow her. I will send you her handle for sure.
Why don't you tell us in case they're interested? Can you tell us her handle?
Yeah, my wife's handle is @Radhi, RADHI, Devlukia, DEVLUKIA. You'll find her on Instagram. I start this book, actually, it's dedicated to her. And my dedication to her is to my wife, who's more monk than I'll ever be. And it's true. She is an incredible light and bubble of joy. She's a lot of fun, Katie. I think you'd really enjoy her. So
I look forward to following her, Jay. And anyway, really fun talking to you and meeting you for the first time. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm looking forward to meditating with you, Jay. And stay in touch. Your podcast is called On Purpose.
Correct.
Which, by the way, a fantastic name for a podcast, which is awesome. And people can listen to it anywhere they listen to podcasts, right?
Absolutely. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's available everywhere. And we've had some incredible guests on recently. And hopefully, Katie, you'll be one of them soon too.
Oh, I would love that. And take a shameless plug, since we have a lot of nice people. I like people to attract, by the way, today. That's not always the case. Sometimes they're kind of crazy here on Instagram Live. But if you could, everybody, sign up for my newsletter called Wake Up Call. Don't look at your phone until you've done thankfulness, inspiration, meditation, and exercise. But when you do, you can quickly know what's going on in the world. ShettyCouric.com to sign up. So maybe you'll sign up too, Jay.
Absolutely. I believe I'm already signed up, but I will sign up again for my wife.
Well, our motto is open it, even if you don't read it. I'm just kidding.
Love it.
All right. And have a terrific
weekend. Thank you so much, Katie.
Everybody.
Thank you so much. So grateful. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.